Let's go to Dublin now, because there have been major events in Dublin over the last sort of 48 hours. And to bring us up to date with them is a former member of the Irish Parliament, Noel Rock, who is with us. He is in the north of Dublin. Noel, thank you for joining us on the programme today. How are you?
Peter, good morning from O'Connell Street, where it's been a sad 48 hours in Dublin, and an unusual 48 hours in a city not used to serious crime like this. We've seen a stabbing of 3 children outside a school, and also riots arising from that. A lot of damage has been caused, and it's an angry and sad Dublin city this morning.
Well, talk us through those just sequentially, because there are a lot of people over here in the UK who are worried about what has happened there, not just because obviously Ireland is a friend and our closest neighbour, but also because they're worried the same thing might happen here. Just talk us through how this all started with the stabbings in the first place, before we get to the riots that came later in the day.
Of course. Well, at lunchtime, approximately on Thursday, outside a school on Parnell Square, which is just to my north immediately here, an Irish citizen of 20 years standing waited outside a school. As children left school, he then proceeded to stab, unfortunately, 3 of them, and ultimately 5 people went to hospital. The attacker, one of the teachers, carers from the school, and 3 children, sadly.
How old were the children, Noel?
The children were approximately 5 to 6 years of age, and two of the victims are still presently in hospital in what is described to me as a serious but stable condition.
That is horrendous. Do we know any motivation, any reason why this might have happened? Why children were targeted in this way?
Media here are reporting today that the individual involved was before the courts approximately 6 months ago on a charge of brandishing a knife, and apparently, according to one of the tabloid sources, the individual's family had been in touch with the police, with An Garda Síochána here, to say that the individual had suffered a brain tumour some 2 years ago, which may have had a bearing on his mental health capacity.
You say he's been in Ireland for 20 years. Is he an immigrant to Ireland?
That's right. He is an immigrant to Ireland, but has been a citizen here and has been here for 20 years.
Where's he originally from?
Originally from Algeria, I believe.
And tell me what happened later in the day on Thursday then.
So later in the day on Thursday, obviously much of the street behind me, Parnell Square.
So you're banging, just to give people an idea, and there are people obviously watching on TV and listening on the radio, Noel, so we'll bear that in mind, but you're bang in the centre of Dublin. This is O'Connell Street, one of the main streets in Dublin. The General Post Office is there, for example. This is really the epicentre of Dublin, isn't it?
That's right. This is the epicentre of Dublin. Anybody who has been to Dublin before will be familiar with the street. It's one of the main thoroughfares, arguably the historic centre of Dublin City. So it is somewhere where, as you can see, there are lots of people, and as you can hear on the radio broadcast, lots of traffic here. So it is a well-populated, very, very busy area, no matter what time of day or night you're here. As you can imagine, at approximately 2 p.m. when this attack occurred at this school, it was very busy. Subsequently, people started to gather here from 4 p.m. onwards to express their I suppose, their feelings about this. Some angry people, some sad people around the scene of the crime, which was naturally cordoned off. As the hours went by, more and more people gathered, and by 7 p.m. There was a situation, a very volatile situation, where people were attacking property, individuals, members of our police forces, members of our fire services, and ultimately a riot essentially broke out on that street and then spread a little bit throughout the city.
What is that about, Noel? Because look, when children are attacked in any way, completely innocent, we obviously don't know the motivation of this of the person who has allegedly done it. But clearly there was real anger that was sparked by this. Why is that anger there, Noel?
Well, there are a variety of reasons, I suppose, Peter. One of the reasons certainly was naturally the shock at what had happened. But as the day went on, it seemed to morph into something a little bit different. It seemed to spread online. It seemed to attract an element of people who want to commit antisocial behaviour. Looting took place. A lot of shops behind me, you can't quite see them. We're a little bit too far away. are boarded up, still closed today. As you can see there on your screen for those watching now, buses were burned out, police cars were burned out, one of our trams was burned out. So in the words of the Taoiseach, tens of millions of euro of property damage, and not really, in many respects, directly related to the events earlier in the day at all. While there might have been an element of people who were genuinely there earlier on to peacefully kind of have a look at the scene, later on in the day, it's definitely the case that these people were not there at all in any way connected with the crime that took place earlier on in the day, but rather were there to cause trouble, chaos, and mayhem. And that's what happened in our city, and that's very regrettable. So there's a mix of feelings. Two events that happened chronologically side by side, but that in the minds of many, myself included, are very much apart.
It's interesting because we don't really expect this to happen in Dublin. Dublin is often seen as a very peaceful city, a very calm city, very welcoming, obviously, to tourists and others as well. Why do you think this has happened now, Noel?
I think there are a variety of reasons. If you look at there were 34 individuals, I believe, arrested already as a consequence of the riots. If you look at where those individuals came from, a lot of them would have come from the most deprived parts of Dublin City. Indeed, the North Inner City behind me is one of the most deprived parts of Dublin City. So some of this definitely is born of a degree of anger. Some of it, individuals who would have previous charges for antisocial behaviour, engaging in further antisocial behaviour. I'm not necessarily sure that there's a political motivation behind this.
But you say anger, though, but anger at what?
Anger, well, I mean, there's ongoing anger here at from some elements about the state of society, as anger from certain elements about the rate of immigration. And I think some of those feelings would have been very much expressed, certainly in the online commentary surrounding these protests.
Yeah, okay. Noel, really, really good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. That's